Hello, everybody. My name is Jill Kivett. I'm with Marketplace Fence, and I'm also your current CAM president. We do appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy schedule to participate in some meaningful professional development today. I hope you get a lot out of today's event. I'm personally very excited for it. I'd like to thank the Education Committee for their efforts in creating value for CAM members. Our webinars for February and March will actually be announced very soon. So please watch your inbox for further information. And on behalf of the CAM Board of Directors, I'd like to thank our strategic partners for their unwavering support of the association and for helping to fuel important education events like today's webinar. I'd like to please join me in recognizing and thanking Cross Connect, Exhibition Place, GES, the International Center, Metro Toronto Convention Center, RBC Convention Center Winnipeg, BMO Center at Stampede Park, Ignite Magazine, and the Quebec City Business Destination. And I am also pleased to note that our sponsor for CAM's 2024 webinar series is Exhibition Place. So a huge, huge thank you to the team there. Awesome, guys. Thanks for being here too. And right now I'd like to turn things over to our roundtable moderators, Lisa and Serge. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jill. Welcome, everyone, to our first, it's going to be our first online roundtable format, and we're looking forward to some exciting discussions and gaining takeaways with all of us together. And I see a lot of familiar faces, which is fantastic.
We will be breaking off into 4 roundtables constructed as 2 concurrent sessions. You pick which roundtable you'd like to attend, and following each session, we'll gather to highlight the key takeaways.
It's our pleasure to introduce our facilitators for today. We have Michael Dargavel, CEM, Director of Operations at Association and Events Management International. We have Christine Hartinger, CEM, Senior Account Executive, Exhibition Place, Enercare Center, and Beanfield Center. Nancy Milani, CEM-AP, CEM-AP Consultant, and Sonia Moffatt, CEM, Vice President and General Manager at Freeman.
The first set of roundtables to select from will be Glowing Up Your Sponsorships and Deliverables, facilitated by Michael Dargavel and Christine Hartinger, or the second one is Creative Branding and Marketing for Visual Storytelling, facilitated by Sonia Moffatt and Nancy Milani. Please note that the structure of each breakout is similar to how we used to do in-person roundtable exchanges, except of course we're now virtual. Once you're in your breakout, we encourage open dialogue and the sharing of ideas and experiences amongst your peers to allow for experiential learning to take place. The facilitator's role will be to keep the discussions flowing and to keep notes on the key takeaways shared by the group. And we'll now ask the CAM team with creating each breakout. Attendees, please select your preferred session.
So you're going to see 2 come up on the screen, and just click on the one you want to go into.
All right, thank you for selecting the breakout on Glow Up Your Sponsorships and Deliverables. This session covers offering a new look at how sponsorship has changed given new demographics in the workplace, changes in economic outlook, and the expectation of the current Gen Z who are now entering the workforce. We will now hand it over to the facilitators, Michael and Christine, to get us started.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. As Lisa had mentioned, this is an open forum, so please turn your cameras on, unmute yourself, and join the conversation, because that's what it's all about. We are here to support each other. If you have any ideas that you're thinking of implementing for 2024, throw them out there. Everybody can join in and help you out, and we can discuss it. Anything that you did in 2023 that you thought was pretty amazing and you want to share, or that didn't go so well, we can share that as well. So who wants to start? What are you excited for 2024?
Well, I'm an open book for my next event, or my association. We never did sponsorship ever. They didn't believe in it. And now we are in uncharted territory that they want to start sponsorship this year. And so it'll be interesting to see how that goes and how they policy. It's all about policy right now on where they see it's going to happen. So I'm certainly going to use every tool I've ever had from any show I've ever been involved in to do that. But I'm finding with young Gen Zs and all of that, it's more digital. It's like they want those kinds of instant things on their phone or their computer, as opposed to what we used to do traditionally before.
Yeah, so the traditional sort of cookie cutter sponsorship really doesn't apply anymore. I think we've all kind of understood that, especially since, you know, COVID and moving over to digital events and all that good stuff. You know, I think that working with your partners is probably the best thing to do. I mean, Tony sent me some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
You know, your show decorators have got, you know, their finger on the pulse of what's going on. Consult with them, talk to them. You know, what are you seeing? What are you doing? You know, what's new? Your facility. You know, talking to your facility and saying, hey, like, what are you guys doing? Even your in-house caterer and your host hotel. You know, there's all kinds of really interesting interactive experiences that you can do for people, you know, that you might just not, I'm like, oh my God, I never even thought of that. You know, sometimes the host hotels have some really cool spaces that you can utilize. They might have a VIP suite, or they may have, you know, an amazing spa.
We're always in the market for stealing other people's ideas, because we do that quite a bit of here's all the interesting things that we have, you know, what have you seen at other shows? What kind of branding kind of opportunities are there? Our show rotates around to 3 different cities. So that's 3 different convention centers. So we do a lot of graphic and visual branding. So one of the challenges is trying to, you know, try to have the same inventory in terms of different, you know, sponsor levels and exposure when the physical building that we're operating in changes every year. So sometimes, you know, great, you sponsored the, you know, the stairs up to the convention center registration one year, and the next year, either we don't have stairs or they're in a different spot. So it's no longer something we're able to do. So that's kind of one of the challenges that we face, is trying to reconfigure our package based on what the approvals and what sort of physically exists.
That's a really good point, though. If you're not taking control of your assets every year and figuring out, you know, what is best to be offering to your sponsors, you know, I think it's very important to always look at what you have and what you could possibly do in a new venue, or, you know, I think it's a great idea to do that every year.
And I guess also, Nicole, if there's something that you can tie, not necessarily to the venue or the city, or maybe tied to the city, but tied to the show. So for example, in the case of a food show, maybe you do food stations that are tied to whatever's being served. So maybe specialty drinks associated with the fruits and vegetables that people are showing, or smoothie bars. And at a certain time of the day, the smoothie bar opens up. Maybe it's a morning offering and it's branded and sponsored, and everyone pays to be part of that, whoever wants to participate. So it does get a little challenging when you're in different cities, but there could be options that you're tying them to your event, and everyone wants something that's going to wake them up in the morning or keep them going at the end of the day.
Yeah, I've seen some great like specialty coffee bars, which have happened in other events. So there's definitely some things which I'm like, oh, that might be kind of interesting, and figuring out whether it's something that works with the different things that we have kind of going on. I don't know if anyone else has done any kind of specialty foods or anything kind of that's more of an activation, because we get a lot of requests for those, like outside of our kind of traditional event sponsors and physical brandings.
What I know from my past is that when we worked out a relationship with a brewery, like a craft brewery, and brought them in, and they sponsored, we got like another sponsor to sponsor the craft brewery. Again, it becomes a destination for your attendees and your exhibitors to have a quiet time, even a time to talk to customers in that area.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's my first time here, so I only know Diane. I was just messaging her. So I'm Susana Cabral. I'm with Diversified Communications. We do a few, I work with Nancy Gillette, a few shows around. One of the things that actually really picked up for us in the last couple of events that we've done has been the photo booth. The photo booth, we have used that as a large sponsorship tool. it has really worked. I believe the first year we did it for our own fun. It was our 20th anniversary for one of our primate event. And so we just carry all the fun behind it. And then for 2 of the other events that we've done, we carry the sponsorship to it, attached to, say, like the booth of the sponsor beside it. And so then you can build it up with, the photos, and you can put their logos, on the actual machines. You can do some of the stickers and stuff like that to dress the photo machines. So that really worked, and it's a fun station. So you can do your professional headshots, or you can do fun different photos as a group or a couple of people, and you can have all your props and things like that. So but that seemed to be something that went from zero money to now creating a sponsorship level for us. So that worked.
And that would be heavily tied into your social, right, as well. So that
Yeah,
aspect of it.
correct. Yeah, because we do it throughout the day as part of the headphone. Originally we label it as the come and get your professional headshots done. And then because we do networking receptions at the end of the day or in between 2 or 3 nights, that is absolutely carried into like the drinks part of the evening, and the photos might look a little bit different and more fun than they do during the day, right? But definitely, I think that was something that we didn't think it was going to pick up as, and because the machines are actually quite small nowadays, you don't need to do the big umbrellas and the whole thing. They're way more reasonably priced, and you actually do make a little bit more money than you anticipated to make out of it. But it's more for the fun of it, because it's a nice takeaway too, right? So they get to take that, and it's like it and I think it actually ties really well with the whole millennial generation, in which they get everything sent right away through your email. And so you have the digital copy, you have the paper copy, there are different packages that you can use. So it actually was something unexpected that being more than we originally anticipated. So,
and Pat, that's a nice tie into the digital, because you mentioned, so especially if you're looking at sort of Gen Z, we're kind of more like in their 20s sort of thing, talking about headshots. And I mean, it took me a good many years before all of a sudden I was like, oh, I should have an actual headshot that's just not like the most professional vacation photo I have cropped, trying to reuse it for panels and things. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be a really good tie-in with kind of the demographic of your audience.
And the other good thing with that kind of sponsorship is it extends the sponsorship for the sponsor who's sponsoring the photo booth, because now it's all on digital as well. So their name just keeps getting, sent out over and over.
Exactly. Excuse me. And I know that for us, we have a whole bunch of, especially for our medical events, we have a whole bunch of rules from the College of Physicians that anything that sponsor has to have 3 people on it, 3 other companies or ourselves plus 2 others. And but because this is inside this is something that I recently learned, it's inside the trade show floor. It doesn't count as that. So the photo strip will have, our event name and then the sponsor. And like you just said, Michael, like the sponsor logo will live on your board with your 3 photos that you took, right? So it really can be a really nice incentive for our sponsors, for sure.
Do you mind sharing your resources for that as well? Like just who you use maybe?
Yeah. And actually, you know what? It's interesting because it was one of our staff that found it for our first event a couple of years ago. And she just went and looked. It's one of the Toronto, they do weddings and conferences and business. So they're everywhere now. I can't remember. I'll look it up while we're still talking, and then I'll share on the chat the info for them.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, anything interactive, I think, those backgrounds for the selfies, same sort of thing. Just little pops that could be strategically placed throughout. I think it, can easily be done amongst different types of venues and things like that. And really, it just creates a little bit of that interaction. There's a lot of informal moments that come when somebody's, taking a selfie with I went to a place and they had the wings in the background, and everybody did it. So it can show the destination that you're at. It can show the branding. There's a lot of cool things that that can transform into the digital. And also you're walking away with the memory and a talking point for the person that you photobombed.
And I think the key is that if you are able to do kind of a sponsorship that does get a little more interactive with whoever you happen to be standing next to, and you're able to connect with that person and laugh a little bit, it could be somebody that you want to network with in the first place. And you've just opened up your community to a new person that you may not have met otherwise.
We've started doing a step challenge the last well, I guess this is the third year that we've started doing it. So just having an app, which basically during that 2 to 3 days, the first year, I think we had 50 people, and now we're up to about 100. So it's just for something that kind of creates a community within a smaller group of people. And we had a sponsor, so you could, use little QR codes you would scan, get a couple of extra bonus steps, and then having the sponsor you visit their booth and you get points for that. So that's kind of something that's more in the activation, and because everyone's wandering around the show floor. So it may work better on the trade depending on if people come back on both days, or if you could always run it as a 1 day at a time kind of a challenge, so it's sort of equitable that way.
It really depends on your audience too, and what their behaviors are like. I mean, and it depends on the type of event there is. Like, I don't know if I haven't seen it in a while, but we did a lot of work with Microsoft a while back, and that audience loves gaming. So it was all about Xbox, and having a section there to just showcase, like, they get the kill 2 boards, they get the sponsorship of Xbox, and they get people being interactive and playing it. And then there was the Wii activations when Wii was a thing. People were boxing like the air, like it was hilarious, and it was interactive and it was fun, and that audience enjoyed that. Like, I don't know if it would be the same for let's say like an insurance conference, but it does spice things up a little bit. You mentioned Gen Z in the beginning of the session, and I thought the one thread that I think they all share is gaming. Gamification is huge. I know Exhibition Place had a great activation at their booth at CEM-AP last year, a virtual reality of the facility, which I thought was so brilliant, and it could also be tied into a bit of an interactive between a couple of people, and those are some things that I've noticed. And also, I think the timing that we live in, coming out of COVID and getting through and seeing a huge resurgence of events, mindfulness is a big thing. Lounges where we could have, some, mindful demonstrations, stretching and things like that in a lounge area, depending again on the audience. But those are all really good. I think it really boils down to value for the attendee, right? They really want to feel value for the 2,000, 5,000, however much they're spending on coming to an event. They need to feel that value. And, I think that's how I typically look at it.
Yeah, we've seen quite an uptake in events that are very, like you said, very not spiritually focused so much, but very much natural environments. Yeah. And getting back to that whole, we have the living wall obviously at Intercare Center, but people are really interested in that serenity and the quiet and the break from the craziness and all of that stuff. And that's been big.
Great coloring books.
If you ever see,
it was a hit.
If you ever see the lineup at a massage feature, oh my God, yeah, that doesn't stop.
No, I agree with you.
I have a question about what do people do after the show is over, and how do you go back to your sponsors and get the information of whether or not they saw value in sponsorship? Does anybody do a follow-up with your sponsors?
Good question.
I have in the past when we've actually gone back to them. We give them stats and things like that, so they know where, how many people and how many, on certain ads and whatever, how many, likes and looks or whatever is on it. And then get their feedback on how they see how it was quantitative. And a lot of the time they've got certain ways that they can figure it out. For example, at the National Home Show, our Remax, they would count how many people were in the house. And to them, that was the success, is to see that that many people, because that logo of theirs was everywhere.
I thought Lisa had a comment a couple of days ago that I thought was really, really like a little gold nugget for event producers. And really what she was speaking about was providing the sponsors with the information before the event. So actually gathering that information before the event, you know, your attendees through ticket sales, et cetera, and providing that information to them so they know how to interact when they're actually on the floor. You know, so giving that to them up front, which is seems like a very simple thing, but it's brilliant, really. You know, so I think that's something that everybody should be implementing if possible, you know, as opposed to providing it after the fact, which is great as well, but it's almost too late at that point, right?
Well, when you're selling the sponsorship, you have to give them all those details beforehand. But then you, on the end, you want to tell them, okay, now what we've done while we're at the show. So you've
We
got the
delivered.
pre to get them then, and then you have the post on how it all went.
In the example that I had used, it was along the lines of, like, for example, so the sponsorship is already done, but when they get there, what kind of people are coming in? So when you are speaking with them and they do manage to get to your booth, it's along the lines of, okay, well, if it's a technical event, am I speaking to a marketing person, an engineer, or a salesperson? Like, who is the person I'm supposed to be speaking with? Because maybe I need to staff the booth differently depending on what target is coming or how many of those certain people are coming, because an engineer may not want to talk to a salesperson because they want to know all the backgrounds of how something might work, let's say. So they want someone with a more technical or maybe a design experience or something that kind of interacts more with what they're there for. So something along that line. So you're getting them there and you're, you know, when you're providing these opportunities and all that kind of thing. But then when they're finally there, what are they taking away with them? What makes them want to come back? Which also sells more sponsorships potentially.
Yeah, that's a good point, because sometimes it's all about getting the person to the exhibit area, and that could be just curiosity and people. Like sometimes it's even just a quick small group of people, and all of a sudden the curiosity comes into play. So I think that just knowing that you should be ready, or knowing in advance as much as possible that you could have a diverse audience is helpful, and then you can target accordingly. Like, there's lots of really cool, as Tony said, gamification type things that are kind of educational, that can still give, you know, some good quality information, but it could still be, I guess, presented in a fun way with leaderboards and different types. So yeah, it is. I think we have to be prepared that you can have multiple types of individuals from an organization at a particular show that could show up in your booth, and just have to be kind of prepared to see how whatever activation or sponsorship that you have can translate into, you know, trying to hit as many, or maybe you do go in saying, you know, this year I'm going to try to hit, you know, this target. So yeah, it is important for sure. Knowing how much time they spend, right? Because you can have these great plans, and if your game is too long, or you know, you really have to be mindful of that.
That's
So
true.
it looks like we're down to about a minute left. So if anybody has any last questions, comments, anything they want to throw out there, please do so. All right then. Well, thanks.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you, I guess, on the other side for the next session,
On the
perhaps.
flip side.
On the flip side. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Christine.
There you go.
Thanks everybody for picking this breakout on creative branding and marketing. So I don't know if all of you have been to roundtables before when it's in person, but we're just going to have like an open discussion facilitated by our facilitators, Sonia and Nancy, and we're going to just go through and share and learn from each other, like experiential learning. So I'll pass it over to Sonia and Nancy.
Yeah, welcome, everyone. Yes, as Serge mentioned, we want this to be as interactive as possible. So if you have, ideas or things that you've done that you want to share, we want to hear about them. I guess I'll start us off a little bit, just to get the conversation rolling, and then everybody can jump in as we go. From our perspective, like Freeman recently did a survey and has a trend report. And what what we found is that people attend, and they are attending, and they're happy to attend. They're attending to have fun, to network, to do business, and what was the other one? And to learn. So I think as much as this is about how do you make your event look better or have that appeal, the important part is knowing your audience. And what we've found is that you may think, oh, it's nice to have a wellness center or a yoga moment, but that people are actually looking for more sort of a substantive ability to network with subject matter experts. They want to see new products. They want to have those interactive experiences, so that if you are, the first place to start is who is your audience and what do they want, and what demographic are they, and what, how can you provide that? And then giving a more curated look to your event from that. For example, if you're trying to do one event where they had a networking session where they allowed people to take pictures of them, do a selfie. They had a place where they did a little business card where they took a picture and they had props, and then they sort of gave some information about what their skills were and what they were looking for, and they placed it on a board together, and then people could go and exchange information, and that was a way for them to network and meet. So it's more about, it's not just to, once you have dug deep audience and what they want, then you, from there, I think, is where to me, the last thing is is building the actual physical of what's happened. So it's first knowing, what do I want to do? What areas do I want? I have a new product area, but I think it's not just putting things on on props. It's working towards having that interactive or subject matter experts, or building some kind of an ability to have people meet in meaningful ways. So that just kind of, to start us, does anybody else want to share a story of how they've worked on their event or added some kind of, as they said, how they're branding and marketing and doing their visual storytelling?
I'll just add to that. When you're branding and marketing the event, you want that kind of storytelling and creating all those experiences, like you said, Sonia. So it starts from the very beginning, when pre-event, where you have videos, and maybe you're having your speakers or influencers or people doing quick little videos that are getting out there and telling the bit of the story about what your brand and what's to happen to kind of attract people there. And then during the event, the same thing, following through with that storytelling, the experiences like you mentioned on the show floor. And then post-event as well, having highlights of the event, because it is all about the branding and the marketing, and getting that strong brand out there. And that's what kind of attracts people. And that will take us to talk a little bit about what our second session is later. But it is creating that immersiveness at the beginning, and getting everybody really wanting to go, and that sort of that fear of FOMO, that they can't miss out on your event, right?
That's the whole thing, FOMO. There's a very short window span of how we get their attention to tell them the story too, right? That's the hard part, especially if they've never been to your show before.
And I think the idea is about building, zones. So, it's curating. So doing that individual, it is now about an individual journey. So it's kind of setting zones. So a zone might be a networking area, it might be a new product area, or it might be something else that you're doing. And then if you think of your show floor, or even your whole campus of where you may be, and sort of breaking that mold of thinking it has to be in the conference center. Maybe something works better outside, depending on your season or what you're doing. Maybe it works better in a lobby or in another room, or thinking of it more broadly about how the flow of your floor will work and what will happen. There is actually a product out there called Zoom, where what they're doing now is placing like sensors that give you an idea of how people are responding to what's going on. So they place them at different strategic places throughout your floor. And as you walk, as people walk by, they note their expression. It takes an image of just a flash of their expression, whether it's happy, interested, and it can give you a sense of what people are interested in. You know, whether that be an escalator cling where people, you know, focused on that, and it's, again, it is about data. So it's easy to say, oh, you should put up an LED wall here, or you should have this beautiful, you know, big banner. But what is the ultimate goal, and what's going to achieve that goal is really where you have to start. And it is, as Nancy said, about promoting. Like once you have those areas set up, it's about promoting it and having it a moment that gets captured for social media. Mm-hmm.
Mikey, you do lots as a show producer. You're involved in lots, you know, both digitally and live events, and you definitely do lots of marketing and branding. What can you add to the conversation here, just based on what, you know, Sonia said, the survey that they've done, and with the information that's come out, and how we have to know our audiences and get the messaging out? You're on mute.
Realize that I just saw it say, it jumped up when I started talking. It's like, you're on mute. So love that you called me out, and appreciate the kind words. It's different for each event, right? So for a lot of our consumer events, what we're pushing is, you know, the exciting stuff happen at the show. For one of them, the Sport Card Expo, which has seen great growth over the last 3-4 years. A lot of what we've been doing is building out a main stage with a lot of content pieces of that. And how we're pushing that messaging is we've really leaned into the YouTube account and started premiering and releasing after the show the content pieces that we're creating at the show, which again helps sell it, not just actually to the attendees who are coming in, but it helps sell us to the speakers. So when I'm looking for hobby specialists to come in and talk, I can now go back to some of this content that we've already put out and released. And then secondly, in terms, you know, and I'm going to talk about capturing content, because this is we talk a lot about what we do leading up. Capturing on site, I use a company called Shutterbee, as well as a videographer and a photographer. And the reason is I want to capture as many stills and images from as many different angles as possible. For Shutterbee, why I love them so much is I can get them to come in, produce a high-end reel every single day of the event, and have that in my marketing manager's hands by the end of the night. So they'll come in with 3 different people, shooting a lot of clips on their phone, using gimbals, and have that content out that next day. And for consumer shows where you're basically selling the day before for the next day, it's really important to capture it, but also get it out in a timely manner. So a couple ways of thinking of that. And then finally, you know, we talked about, and I'm sure a lot of you have thought about how to incorporate hybrid or virtual into your events. One of the ways that people are doing this is actually creating, you know, you have your main in-person event, and a way to make that hybrid is running content pieces virtually beforehand for your community. So leading into your event, you may have 2 months of different content pieces from professionals where you can invite your community worldwide to attend for free. And really all this is a selling piece for your main show, where more people are going to be there, the very best is going to be there. And again, it's a way for you to directly engage with your audience and sell them on the event. So just a couple ways there. Hope that added to the conversation.
Sure. Anybody else? Lerna, what's something you're doing in terms of the branding and marketing and visual storytelling with your show?
Yeah, we really just talk about what happens at the show. For our marketing, we use our real footage, the real activities that take place. We do teaser videos. We have so much going on the show floor, sections like pavilions, competitions, stages. Obviously food and beverage is an exciting industry, so showing a lot of footage that way to entice people to see where food food and beverage already connects people. So it just seems like an easier way to entice people to come to that type of event. So we do use a lot of our current footage from the previous shows when we do our promo videos on social. We do a lot of like leading up to, we'll do like prize packages as well as in our marketing. So we have like, buy your multi-day pass and you get to enter a chance to win. And it's a pretty great prize. So it's just an extra thing to kind of tie in with our registration efforts. And then like at the show, we love to create experiences throughout different areas. Like we have our pop-up experience where it's an immersive restaurant experience, including all our brands, so they can actually experience what it's like being in a restaurant using these products. And then, you know, even at the RC booth, we have our association booth. We always try to do some type of activation, lead generation. The 360 camera thing is pretty popular at events. So just trying to use similar tactics to get people to stop at an association booth. That's such a, I guess there's so many different areas that people like right at the entrance, they're not going to really stop there. They want to just get to where they're going. So we really try to figure out what we can present to them and have them stop by and then you know, share on their social for another chance to win type of thing. So I think contesting is something that's been going on forever, and it was always like drop your business card and whatnot. But now you get to use social for that type of collection. So yeah, I think that's pretty
Fair
much it.
enough.
I don't know if Leash is on my side,
Are you
on my
sharing
team, so she might
location?
want to jump in and include some comments.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
was.
also share it through social media, all these things you're talking about, like as it's happening? Do you do it live through social?
Yeah, so we do. Oh yeah, we have like a photography team that does photography for post show, where we collect a collection of like our library of photos. But then we have our social team that's on the show floor posting lives. And this year actually we are tapping into more. We did this a little bit last year. We kind of tested it out, but we are tapping more into influencer marketing. So that's really something that, like, you know, a chef that's or a pizziolo that's really into that, that's and could be supporting our pizza competition. So kind of like tie it in like that. So that's another tactic that we're trying this year and putting a little bit more effort into.
Yeah, I think something also that we're doing is really tying in our events. I think really utilizing the show and the networking opportunities together. And just even as a new business or an experienced business, how to continue on that growth is, you know, by networking and attending these events. And I think those are also just really good positions for us to be in when it comes to this industry itself. At the end of the day, hospitality and food service, they want to have fun, and in order to do that, they have to have the spaces to have fun. So if we're creating those environments of, we're going to have this industry night out, it's your opportunity to, you know, network with all these big players, or top to top, where you know, network with all these big players, which is absolutely fantastic. But on top of that, you get the show next to it, which kind of drags you into the networking opportunity and pushes it outside of the show as well.
Nice.
One of the other findings that we had on from our survey was that, you know, you can't undersell that people are there to do commerce, and that we shouldn't be embarrassed of the fact, like we think we have to have all these other bells and whistles, and at the end of the day, people are there to do business, and you need to promote that and your exhibitors and what they're having to offer, because that is one of the key reasons people are going there to do business, to find new products, develop some skills, do that networking. So it's, to your point, you want to, you know, yes, that's just as important, that you're focusing on giving your exhibitors, or if they're doing showcases, or allowing them to do those opportunities, and then perhaps promoting that.
Yeah, we're doing matchmaking this year on our new mobile app. 2024, we're getting a mobile app.
Yeah, and I think that's something that pushes to the show, you know.
Lerna, what app are you using? I'm just curious.
We use A to Z for floor plan management, and thought we would entertain their app development this year, since they already have all our exhibitor information in there. It's just really something that we want to try out to see if that works better. And they are integrating with Microspec, which is our registration company, so that anyone who registers for the show is automatically connected to the mobile app. If they want to have a more personalized experience and do favorites and all that kind of stuff, they need to create a login. Otherwise, they can just browse the app and know what we're doing at the show. And it's just going to have like all our schedule, all the exhibitors there. You can do category search. So it's really just like we've actually eliminated our printed show guide, which is huge because we've had that show guide forever. And it was just literally a massive publication. It was very stressful to put this publication together. And we already have a publication menu magazine. So what we're decided to do is put all of our promotion of like what we used to put in the show guide into menu mag, show edition, launch it at the show. We only have to print one publication instead of two at the same time. So we're just kind of thinking about different ways, and realistically, like we need to adapt to digital. It's just the way people behave. Like, I don't know, I can't go like a day without searching something on my phone because I want to get the answer fast. So I think that's the best way is to do the mobile app. So that's another way of marketing.
Yeah, and along with that, I think it's also keeping in mind the user experience for us and where we are as an organization too, focusing now, working on sustainability within our industry. And this is kind of playing along with that on top of our theme, which is level up, getting rid of all that paper, really falling into the digital themes of everything and making it as accessible and easy for not only our exhibitors, but our attendees as well, and have a very streamlined service so that if you're just walking around, you're not trying to hold a magazine in your hand, looking at this floor plan, you have it on your phone, it'll show you where you are, these kinds of things that will just help guide and streamline a better experience for everybody.
I just wanted to add in, I've been so patient and for my ADD. But I was two points. So one, in terms of content creators / influencers, for some of our shows, we've been really good about engaging them, bringing them out to the show, and as well as finding up and coming people and actually cultivating a relationship before they're huge. This one in particular.
Hi, everybody. Those 20 minutes went by way too fast. We're gonna have to make this longer next time. Welcome back. So we're gonna let our facilitators give some highlights on the key takeaways. We have about 10 minutes before we go into the next round tables, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna send all of you the notes and key takeaways from every single breakout. So you'll have everything there.
Okay, so let's hear from Christine and from Michael first.
Yeah, I mean, amazing session. I always love these things because you never know what's going to come up. So, you know, so nice to see everybody's kind of sharing and supporting and, you know, sharing their ideas very freely, which is wonderful to see. Some of the things that came out of our particular event was not stealing ideas so much, but, you know, don't be afraid to discuss with your show decorator, your facility, your in-house caterer, your host hotel, pick their brain. What are they doing? What are they seeing? What are other events doing? You know, what's trending? You know, to develop those peripheral events around your show. Taking control of your assets. So not everyone is in the same facility every year. They're moving around from place to place, realizing what that particular facility has to offer and how they can utilize it for their sponsorships. You know, really specializing in very fun things. Photo booths was one that came out in our conversation that seems to have been great success with events. Because it has it sort of extends the life of sponsorship. So, you know, the ramp up to the event, the actual event, using it on social, and then post event as well. a step challenge was also brought up, which I thought was really cool. I think that's a fun interactive one that people can really get on board with and, you know, interact with each other and be able to meet people that you may have not met before. And obviously having small sponsorships surrounding that. Gamification, of course, has been huge in the last little while. So really extending on that premise. And, you know, providing stats for attendee or for your sponsors in advance of their event. So, you know, we always, you know, provide them with post reports on, you know, who came to the show, who they were, all those demographics, but really gathering that stuff beforehand when people are registering who they are they salespeople, are they engineers, are they technical folks? So the sponsors and your exhibitors are able to interact with them at the time of the show and hire the people that are appropriate, you know, to speak to that particular demographic on the show floor. I think that was really kind of, like I said, a little gold nugget for folks that they can use. So that's kind of a summary of what we discussed in our session, and hopefully we'll see you in the next session.
Thanks, Christine. So we'll pass it now to Sonia and Nancy for roundtable 2.
All right, we also had a really great session, very interactive and lots of conversation, which is always appreciated. I don't think anybody is shy about sharing, which is great to see. We started off the conversation really as knowing your audience, making sure that you get focused on what is needed. Why are people attending your event and what do they want out of your event? Through various surveys, we know that people are going there to network, to have fun, to see new products and to learn, and then also to do business. And that focusing on those areas is going to help you then decide what your branding is. So it has to putting that first before it's giving people a curated experience, not just scattershot, but really giving it some thought as to what you're doing. Does your audience really want a wellness center, or they're more focused now on having, you know, people want to meet subject matter experts. They want to be able to network with experts, have networking that helps them solve mutual problems that may be existing. And some of the feedback was, of course, getting a lot of content and then once you do that, it's promoting ahead of time, getting content from your events, taking lots of you know, photos and video and presenting it on social media and giving that's important. Using having people on site posting live that are giving you bringing people to the event, influencer marketing, and then let's see, and mobile apps are becoming, there was a good conversation about using the mobile apps and taking your time to build it right, adapting to the digital, making it accessible, and which is now becoming more sustainable. And that allows for more flexibility in people being able to see what's going on in your event or branding and marketing. Nancy, did I miss any? I think those were the key areas. It really is about, yeah, focusing on what does your audience want? What is that? And then building from that, what your event should look like, how it should be set up, and then making sure that you are promoting it and focusing and getting it out there to your audience, and then keeping it going after the event is over. I know Mikey and Lerna spoke about their mobile apps and how they're building them and really trying to kind of get into the 21st century and away from paper, and that people are more used to using the digital as a way to make their way across the event through the the education and the exhibitors. I think that's kind of highlights what we talked about.
Thank you. So we're now going to go into our next set of roundtables, so you can select from creating immersive experiences for attendee engagement. That'll be facilitated by Sonia and Nancy, or how to freshen up your show creatively, facilitated by Christine and Michael.
All right, so we're going to ask our CAEM friends to now split us up into those other rooms. Attendees, you can now select your preferred session. Okay, thank you for selecting this session on creating immersive experiences for attendee engagement. This covers tapping into new ways of engagement through personalized experiences that extend past the live event. And we'll now hand it over to the facilitators, Sonia and Nancy, to get things started.
Okay, and since Sonia did session 1, I'm going to take session 2 here, and obviously with her input as well. So welcome. So the first session, and some of you were in it, was really about creating that strong brand and marketing that'll attract attendees and sort of set the stage. And then what do we have once we have them? They've set the stage. Now we want to create immersive experiences. So there's a little bit of crossover between the two, because we did discuss that in the first round. But definitely we know that with the newer and younger audiences, it is all about immersive experiences. It's all about interaction. And as Sonia had mentioned in the first one, understanding our audiences and behavior. And in order to do that, we've got to create a very immersive experience on the show floor. And we had some great examples from Lerna and Mikey and things that they had done with their shows, and we can share some. Just want to give one quick example, which really speaks to this. This was a Pinterest event that was held last summer in Toronto. And they were inviting ad agencies and publicists to this event. And the goal was to get them, it was thinking outside of the box. And they wanted to get these ad agents and stuff to advertise on Pinterest. And it's not a traditional form of advertising that an ad agency might recommend to clients. So it was all about creating this immersive experience and what Pinterest was about. So their theme was a great Canadian summer, and they were inviting people that were not from the Toronto area in particular. So they wanted to highlight Toronto and show great Canadian summer. And the sort of goals of it was to discover, decision, and do. So they sort of had 3 things that they wanted. So they created this, they got this great space, and they just created a pathway, and you walked in and you just went through, and the Pinterest colors, the logo was on the floor, either the floor or the walls, and it carried you through this immersive experience of this great venue. And again, they had, at the beginning, they had boards with vignettes of different things that would happen in Toronto in the summer. So they had backyard barbecues, they had cottage life, they had a patio with a food truck, fire pits, that kind of thing, different culture and things, food and culture things you would do in Toronto. And then they had photos of it, things you would see. For example, you'd see that on Pinterest, but then they brought those to life and had built out all of these creative little spots. So they were all small. They weren't huge ones. They were maybe 10 by 20 or whatever, but they had your backyard barbecue and all these little things. So it created this experience. And then they had sessions going on, so that the first part of it was discovering, so learning about these little things. The vignettes brought it to, so they discovered what Pinterest could do. The decision, then they went to decision making, so they created there was a session with staging, they had content, and then the do was, when you went through this, there was kind of shoppable experiences, QR codes, which would bring you back to the platform. There was swag to take. So they created this incredibly immersive experience. The video of it is absolutely fantastic. It was one of the coolest events I had seen for a smaller type event. But it was exactly that. It created a memorable experience, but it was also action. It was to get these advertisers to think, wow, we can do this with, with our clients. We can get them to advertise, and we can take them through and showcase them. And their results apparently were really good. So that was just kind of an example of something that you can do that's a little bit, somebody that normally wouldn't maybe be at your show, or would be at your show and doesn't know how to create or do their product or get people to understand in a different way. So does anybody have any examples of anything they could share, or anything they've seen on the show floor that kind of creates these neat immersive experiences? Any examples from anyone? Learners, is there anything you do on the show floor? I'm just thinking, I mean, you have obviously food and beverage, you do a lot of tasting and create new things like that. Has there been any kind of cool experiences? I didn't go to your show last year, so.
Yes, and you're all invited to come and judge. By the way, I'm doing a little plug here. We will need judges for our booth awards. So anybody who's interested to come and walk the show, please let me know. But yeah,
I
think-
recommend it. I've done it and lots of food tasting.
Yes, thanks, Pat. I saw your hand go up. I'll definitely reach out to you after this. But yeah, I think for us, we kind of have our exhibitors doing a lot of that because there's so much to offer. Like we've even seen it with our equipment guys that are now cooking to provide this experience instead of just showing an oven or showing a fridge or whatever it is. So there's a lot of experiences at our show that are immersive, I believe. There's you know, and I think for the most part we do what we do as far as our stages and our feature areas that we have, but the exhibitors I find for us have really made it such a great show because they do go all out with their booth design and build and their own marketing. So we can't really take credit for that, but there is so much going on the show floor. We have our stages that are definitely interactive when it comes to programming. And then as Leash mentioned on the previous group chat that we were having is our events, right? So we have 4 hospitality events that we host during the show. So that's a really good way for brands to come to life and to have people that are engaging with that specific product. So
I also think along with that, like we also talked about this in our last conversation, is the matchmaking app and, you know, kind of not forcing, but really driving that interest for our attendees to talk to the exhibitors and interact as much as possible. You know, it's not also just for your average Joe Schmo walking through, you know, but, you know, operators, suppliers, anybody who's there to really have that opportunity to seek out what they're really looking for and go to that. I think specific interaction is really, really important. And if you give the people the opportunity to choose who they want to interact with and how that engagement happens, then I think the likelihood of them using it is going to be higher.
For sure. In the app, as we talked again in the last one, but it is becoming so common and it is a great way of getting people connected prior to the show, during the show and after, and keeping that kind of community going. And I know for one of the clients I was working with last year in Toronto, they do an annual conference and they introduced an app the year before and very few people downloaded it and used it. So again, it's all in your marketing ahead of time and getting people and trying to engage. And even for the conference we did last year when I came into, you know, we marketed a bit more, we got more people on the uptake at the beginning, but when it got to the show, there wasn't that many. So we really encouraged them and we added a sense of contesting to it. And I mean, I'm not one personally, I'm going to download the app because I want the information. I don't really care about the contesting, but for this particular group, and it was a conference of about 400 people. So not huge, but, you know, people that knew each other in a particular industry. And we offered a very last minute, went to MLSE and we got a signed Raptors jersey and a signed Leafs jersey. And we put that on the contesting that if you use the app and posted and interacted, well, my God, the uptake was huge. We launched it the morning of the conference, 2-day conference. You know, we had maybe 26%, I think, on the app prior to the conference. By the end of the first day, we were at 58%. And by day 2, because people wanted, you know, and they were prizes of some significant value. Right. So, and we ended up with 78% people, I think, at the end, you know, in 2 days, it turned around that quickly. So again, creating that experience where people can, you know, get involved, I think is a really big factor and people remember that. And then when they're on the app or they're doing these different things on your show floor and having those good experiences, they're going to post, they're going to talk about it, and that's going to help you for future years for sure.
I agree with you. In the home shows, we had interactive DIY areas where you could learn how to do something because that's what you want. People want to learn how to do it themselves. All of them were very popular and always a lot of people wanting to be involved, and they were like posting pictures of themselves on, you know, I learned how to drill something or whatever, and they were still really strong. And the show I just finished in Calgary, it was the exhibitors that had movement in their show, in their booth. You know, that's all. Yeah, my survey afterwards. Oh, and hopefully Milwaukee does that again. It was great, like a tool challenge. Those kinds of things people will remember, and then they're actually having fun.
Yeah, we talked. Sorry, go ahead, Nancy.
No, you go ahead, Sonia.
I was just going to say that what we talked about that in the last session too, that it is about people want interactive experience. So if you're going to do a new product area, you just can't be putting things on a shelf and having say come by and look at it. It has to be, to your point, and even for B2B, giving people an opportunity to use it, having experts there to talk about it, and it is about people want activity. And the other point we talked about is that people are there also to do business. It is one of the main reasons they go to an event is actually commerce, and we sometimes forget that they're there to do business. So if it's engaging with your exhibitors so that they can work towards having interactive areas that are going to draw people to their booth. Like I know Restaurants Canada does a great job because a lot of the stuff there is very interactive for sure. But I gave an example that we from Freeman, where they had a company attendees could take, to dealing with networking, that attendees could take fun headshots of themselves. They would put they would give a note indicating the expertise or services they offered it, and then they pinned it on a board, and everybody went and took a look, and they could take a card down and connect with those people. So it can be something as simple as that. But I think the whole key to it is about, what are people there to do? Have fun, learn, do business, and network. So then from there you can build those immersive experiences.
For sure. I mean, when you think of the trade shows 20 years ago, that was a trade show floor and boring, and then we created a lounge, and we thought that was super creative way back then. Oh, people can network at a specific area. And we look at where we are at today, then the social media world started and the apps, and it is all about, like, one of my favorite shows is going to the CME in the summertime, right? Getting the ideas, the show for us. Just getting all the neat ideas of things we're doing. And the more that you can really educate your exhibitors to do these interactive experiences, they're going to have such a better, ROI. As a result of it, they're going to be returning for you for years, and they're really enhancing your show floor too, and sort of building that community, and then keeping it all going year round with the videos that you do and the highlights of all of that, and social media makes a great experience, because it's if it's not interactive now, you go to a show and you go, oh my gosh, this is so boring, which used to be the norm. Just walking through and chatting with people is not what we do. And then utilizing your Freemans and GESs, you know what I mean, they do great build outs. They've got very creative departments. So, encouraging your exhibitors to talk to them. What can we do? We want to have a little bit of a creative experience or immersive experience. What can you do? What can you do? So I think it's important, they draw on the strength of the show management to get ideas and the sales team, but also on our suppliers, because there's a lot that they can do to make an exhibitor's experience really good and give them some creative ideas as we move along, for sure.
Well, and I think that people now do want an individual experience. So we were talking about this before, it's about building your floor with different zones that may have different areas, and then using your app, they can build their schedule that's going to take them around the areas that they want to see and interact, as mentioned, with the exhibitors that they want to have that interaction with. So that is key. And I think at the end of the day, to your point, Nancy, it's not a scattershot anymore. You really have to be focused and know your audience and know your exhibitors and your attendees and what they're more of the attendees than anything. What do the attendees want? What are they looking for? Having that information, gathering that information, and then using that to build your areas, and that's going to set that'll make it easier. Once you know what is the goal, then the bells and whistles can come pretty more easily.
Yeah,
I had, like, some of my exhibitors said, oh, we need to have my committee, we need a podcast stage for the next show, because podcasts and places at shows, that seems to be a new way. Well, that's our AV companies coming in and trying to help us figure that out, to have it on site. Yeah. And then the influencers, which is a whole new game. It's not just a speaker on a stage anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like you said, it's making your influencers who are posting from show site, being at an activity, and then that gets the energy going for everybody else, and sending it out there and drawing more people into your event. And then having it,
Yeah, no, it's so important. And even the influencers again, and that goes back to the first session of branding or whatever. You've got some influencers that are going to be at the show, getting them to kind of post ahead of time, which helps draw people, and then have that kind of following them around the show, and having that story told that they're there to encapsulate all the different things that are going on, going on site, and keeping it going for sure. And as Sonia said, knowing your audiences, and if you've got, a really big show with a really vast audience, you've got to do things that are going to be for the newer generation, but are still going to encapsulate the other generation. So really understanding that and knowing and keeping all of that in mind. But for sustainability of shows now, you think of shows that have been around for 30, 40 years, some of them. And Pat, you think of the home show, how it used to be to now, and how if you want that audience coming back, we got to have new and exciting things, those zones and all these things going on every year. Like, you can't be doing the same old of what we have these, don't fix it if it ain't broke. That is not the attitude anymore. We've got to constantly bringing in, a few new really big feature areas every year, and new ways of doing things and telling the story. Because the shows that aren't changing are the shows that are not doing as well anymore. And that new content coming in and making it interactive and getting people connected for sure.
What goes back, what we said is that, you have to know your audience, because, for example, at a home show, you can't have these big, vast things for big houses, because the people that are actually going to be, that can buy a house or even rent a house, or don't have the same kind of income like they did in the old days. They really don't.
Right.
Yeah.
More small spaces and stuff like that. You're right. Yeah. That's
I think something that we're also like on the knowing your audience, I think part of that is also knowing what can our audience learn that they haven't learned in the past, and how can we continue to educate and grow as individuals too. So, I think something that we're doing is having potentially a performer at breakfast this year. And that's something that we've never really done for RC. We have a speaker, things of that sorts, but having something a little bit more engaging, and pushing those boundaries slightly as well, I think is really important. I do, we all like to sit in our comfort zones. And I think that, like you're saying, if we're sticking the same thing, and these shows just are going to fall out eventually. So we do have to keep up with everything that's happening and try to adjust the show to our audience the best way that we can, especially shows like RC's been around for 79 years. This is our 79th show. So, 79 years ago versus now is very, very, very different, even as restaurant owners, business owners. So we've really kind of geared into that this year around our theme, but also just really drilling in everything else to try to figure out how can we deliver the same kind of experience, but make it that much better.
Yeah, for sure. Well, when you think of restaurants 79 years ago, you didn't go there for an experience, you went to eat. But now you go to restaurants and you often are having an experience, right? There's all kinds of cool things going on, and the decor and different,
Yeah, and I think it's also
just like creating those Instagrammable moments on the show floor. It's a big thing. Everybody wants to take a picture of something.
Well, it's also learning, like Pat, people want to learn something new, and that includes, even if you're, going to plumbers, they want to know what the new pipe is and how to do it. So it's not enough just to have that. You actually have to give them an opportunity to perhaps use that pipe or see how it might fit into a different place. So those are the kind of activations you have to look at for your floor, and then partnering with your exhibitors, because that is a sponsorship opportunity. If they have something new that they can. You offer them the opportunity to showcase it and do some, offer the opportunity to learn. And then, of course, if they're posting those pictures that I use the new pipe, I think even younger plumbers are probably doing that, I'm sure. And that builds from there.
Well, because they've always done for years, they did this new product zone. It's like a display that's like 100 million feet. And I thought it was boring. And so we decided afterwards with the post show, we want to do it sort of like a rapid fire. Anybody with a new product comes up, has 10 minutes to talk about their product on stage, so people could actually understand what the product is, as opposed to it sitting there on a table.
Just sitting there on a plinth looking nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
We're going into our last minute. Anybody have anything they'd like to add or anything they've seen?
I have a
There-
quick question. Has anyone with the wealth of experience in this breakout ever seen guerrilla marketing for a sponsor? You know, drive traffic, drive conversations inside a trade show on a trade floor to help raise awareness of what they've done in their booth or what they're
Can't
doing
say I
to get
have.
them in that space.
I think that makes people nervous only because, you know, there's, it's all about also safety, security and things like that. So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I've not seen it, but I mean, I think that maybe might be the hesitation about something like that, right?
They'd have to be presented as a delegate inside the show, I think.
Mm.
So that's the thing, not someone on the street, but
No.
driving people into the booth that are already in the show, registered, vetted. So now it's not so much as security, but people are there just raising awareness without them having to look at the banners and what stickers on the floor, or what's on the registration or archway. So,
Right.
Kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, for sure. All right, 10 seconds. We're going back to the main room. So we will see you there. Thank you all. Thanks for great participation.
So we're going to talk a little bit about refreshing your trade show. So I think one of the key points about making your trade show fresh and energetic is to know your audience, know who you're dealing with, so that you can start moving in a direction that will be comfortable for the audience. So if you have an older demographic, for instance, it's not going to be mobile friendly, and you might want to look at something like massage or other activations that might draw in an older crowd. And the same with a younger crowd. You might want to have something more digital in your event. Has anybody done anything this past year that they would like to talk about?
Come on, Mikey.
Why is it always me?
You're the digital king. Come on, let's go.
In terms of like ways that we've refreshed the show, I think, I keep using Sport Card as an example. I did it a lot in the last one, because it was seen as an old, stodgy, shrinking show when the current owner purchased it. The previous owner had owned it for 25 years and hadn't done anything to it. It ran twice a year. It made good money. He didn't feel any need to innovate or add to the event, but there was changes going on in the industry, in the market. This new owner felt that. He reached out. He made sure to bring in some of the endemic sponsors, which added to the show. Just by the nature of them being there, bringing more excitement and fun into the show. A perfect example of that is Upper Deck. They now have a two-level booth within the show, encompassing like, I don't know, 5,000 square feet, where they do ton of giveaways. It costs us $0, in fact, is a revenue generator, but it is one of the most exciting things that happen at the show. Another big thing, and I talked about this previously, bringing in content, making sure that was an important thing to the audience as people, we noticed it. People were going on YouTube. These YouTube content creators were having hundreds of thousands of video views strictly on the hobby. So we started bringing them in. We started bringing them to talk about the show. It took a couple years for us to build and figure out the best way to present it. But now we have packed houses in front of the stage. We're streaming out live into a native app, all again done to freshen up the show. And now it doesn't look like anything it did in 2018. It is a totally new event. We're taking up triple the amount of space, and there's about double the audience, or double and a half the audience than it was previously.
That's awesome.
So the content creators of the YouTube folks, so they're actually on site, like they're actually in person, or are
Yeah. So 3 years ago, I reached out to one of the content creators who's an exhibitor of the show. He does a ton of long form content and interviews with them. We created a list of people to target together. And through that, over 2 years, I've built a relationship, gone to other events to meet them. invite them physically, because it's one thing to do it in email. We are all in the business of face-to-face. So I went to there and met them face-to-face. And now we have a list of people who come in consistently or are asking to join. And the only cost to us is maybe a hotel room, right? For them, they already getting the content piece of this. This is a value to them. I'm making sure they have the access and feel wanted and, valued. And for them, they have the access, they can make great videos, and it does really well for their channels. So again, it's a mutually beneficial relationship, but something that took time to build. All of this, like I said it in the other one too, all of these investments take time and sometimes money, but are all worth it in the end.
Interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of folks think that, myself included, that these people are really expensive to bring in. So it's nice to know that it's not a big, upfront cost to actually get the people to come in, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship as opposed to just, here's $20,000. Can you show up at my show?
Yeah,
and look, it depends on your market too, I guess, right? It depends on who you need to show up at your show.
That's it. And also build relationship with up and comers, right? So rather than getting the absolute top person, the top, like who's going to cost you $10,000 to bring in, look for 5 or 6 up and comers that you can build a great relationship and start making them feel wanted. Start giving them access to really cool things at the show that can produce great content. Because one of the things that they're better at doing than any of us is producing content. Right? That's what their jobs are. That's what they do full time. We do shows. We produce great events. Let them capture that and tell the story for us. That's where they're really good and useful for. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the best one or the biggest one in your field.
We've done a few sort of partnerships that are kind of building on something we do year round. So we're in the produce industry. So there's a number of different sort of facets of things throughout the year. We have a consumer facing program, dietitians. So at the show, we've started bringing in some programming that's specifically targeted to, dietitians. We've had some food bloggers come in, some of the sort of, the like Instagram influencers. We have partnerships throughout the year. We have them come to the show. So it's just different ways of sort of enhancing, the marketing and the engagement with those influencers that we already work with for other things throughout the year.
So you're involving those folks year round. It's not just at the actual event. It's something that you're utilizing that relationship 365 kind of thing.
Yeah, because as an association, it's work that we do that's sort of outside of the trade shows specifically, but bringing those partnerships in so that they're at the show, it just sort of adds a little bit more reach to it, and then also just shows the produce industry isn't just I'm selling you tomatoes. It's also consumers. It's educational. There's a lot more pieces to it.
Interesting. Has anybody else utilized that kind of a thing, or looking at perhaps getting into that? No.
I find the biggest challenge when you're working with associations is that you need to freshen up your show, but then the board doesn't give you much of a budget. So that's the creative.
Yeah, there's sort of the know your audience. And I think I read somewhere, it was kind of it's if you're making changes to your show, don't do more than 10% changes, which is good, because especially if you're looking at, consumer show, it's a different market than an association where there's there's a board responsibility, economic, also there's members. So it is very long standing, relationships for sure. And so whenever you make changes, it's like, we'd like to move the timing of this reception half an hour. And there's all these reasons that we may or may not do that. So we've done, we have modified programming over the years. The education session now do a 20-minute 15 sessions rather than 3-hour-long sessions. So sometimes it's little things like the format for what we need just kind of works better, but we're not saying we're redoing the entirety of the event, because that definitely is a challenge when there is so many stakeholders and people that do like the consistent nature of the event. So it's just those little tweaks rather than a full-scale shift.
That's our challenge is we've got, you know, we're a small, well-regarded event. We're a show for hotels and restaurants in Manitoba. Our exhibitors are the life of the show. If we add a stage or a seminar, then we get complaints that we're taking people off of the show floor to go to see the attraction. So for every year, we've got the formula pretty good, and now it's, you know, how do I add changes to that, or how do I add life to something that's already pretty good.
Yeah,
I think it's, yeah, the incremental changes, and then also, you know, to your point, being very considerate, I think, about what you do add, because there's a lot of great things that might work really well for a consumer market, but, you know, we talk about, oh, we could add in, you know, like a chef station or some kind of cooking demonstration, but we know that a lot of our exhibitors and the main ones already have chefs in their booths, so they're kind of already doing that. And then, you know, to your point, there's the, are you drawing traffic somewhere else? But, you know, there is a lot of other shows where they do the chess competition and it works great. So, you know, I don't think there's a one size fits all. It's just easing people into change in sort of ways that maybe are not totally going to impact the, you know, your traffic in a negative way, but just saying, like, we're going to do this like a little bit differently or within the confines that we have.
And just talking about, you know, small changes making big impacts that don't necessarily like anger people. So we work with Canadian Rheumatology Association, and we've worked with them when they went hybrid, and now moving them to, sorry, when they went virtual during the pandemic, and now moving them to a hybrid. What that has done is added some fun elements to some of the games they play. So they play Room Jeopardy, where a doctor goes up and he plays Jeopardy with the whole room, but now more people can get involved and vote. So that really has enhanced that experience and added to it versus taking away. Again, it's not a major change, but it has added some more fun to what they were doing. And adding things like, you know, we use Kahoot for a lot of different games and things like that. And we have offered it up to some of our presenters to gamify their presentations, which adds a little more fun, especially when you're talking about learning over an hour and a half. You know, it's a way for them to see how engaged they are. Are you listening to me? By the way, here's a multiple choice question about what I've just been talking about for the last 20 minutes. Oh, half of you got it wrong. Maybe you should listen better. But again, like, just a way to break it up and make it a little more fun. Some of these technologies aren't so invasive or anything like that, and it's very easy to use, right? For Kahoot, there's a QR code and it takes you right to a website and you don't have to download anything. So again, simple things to add to your event to just make them more fun without, you know, as Jerry was saying, without changing it up and pissing off big stakeholders.
And Kahoot is a lot of fun.
It is.
A lot of fun.
We use it at the conference. So if you come by our booth, you'll likely be playing some kind of trivia for some good prizes.
We've done Slido as well to do like word clouds and just kind of those general, you just have to scan something, you don't have to log in or whatever. It's just, you know, push a button on your phone and then that's it. Just to wake people up every 20 minutes or so to make sure they're still there.
Yeah, and sometimes when you have a lot of education, I really like the boards where they create an image off the theme of the show. So again, we're not talking about a huge cost. This can be both physical and digital, so everyone can have a take home, right? So you can send out that illustration of the event's education as a capture to every single attendee. It can be done per day. It can be done just for one session, your keynote, but it's another takeaway and it adds to the show without changing it.
We actually did that last year in terms of sort of that visual word cloud, but you physically had to write on Post-it notes. It kind of matched our theme because our theme was, you know, sharing your vision, and it actually created content for us that we could leverage afterwards, because those keywords, those key terminologies that people were using, either was it digital or physical, it actually fed the content pieces that we can continue the story after the event, which kind of helped.
And people love doing stuff. They love to be involved. Anything that can touch and feel, right? Like people, we are human. We want to touch and feel. So like active things like that, again, that enhance. And Jerry, don't take away from going off the right. That can live on the floor, for example, on the trade floor. and it just becomes an element of the trade floor versus a stage that can pull people away for an hour.
I was going to ask if anyone's had experience in terms of, we're talking about, crowdsourcing information. So, things where you have, let's say, round table discussions, or, having, let's say you've got some discussion points of having people kind of crowdsource the answers to that. I've seen some people have, a recorder each table with like a Google Doc that you'd, all type things and then put them together kind of at the end. We've seen also actually one way of having interaction, which is more of like a physical thing I saw at an event, which you'd have like basically a big, structure at the entrance, and there'd be kind of like a question for your attendees of, like what's the biggest issue in your industry or something like that. And then you would have like either like markers or Post-its, or like people that would like physically kind of write their answers somewhere. So I don't know if there's been any sort of digital ways to, enhance that experience, or with just markers and Post-its.
It's not digital, but we're doing an activation. So we also do experiential marketing for our clients at trade shows or consumer shows. And so one of the things that we're doing is what do you collect? And it's for eBay. And it's a physical wall with tubes in it. And inside the tubes is a place for you to put a ball. The ball was where you can write your name. And you can put it in, and it's what you collect. So it's Pokemon, it's Funko Pops, it's Lego toys, it's vintage toys. And again, so people can do that. They win a prize. Whichever one gets the most in the day, we'll pick a winner from that. And again, it can show you, so it could be what's the biggest issue facing our industry, and it's 5 main ones that you guys have designated. And again, it's interactive, it's visual, and it's gamified, right? So everyone who enters their name, the winning reason gets a potential prize from We Pick the Winner.
Yeah, it's neat. It is something that's interactive and also visual too.
I'll send you the picture of Nicole when we're done building it.
There is also certain liabilities to giving people a bunch of markers in a blank space to write stuff that's unmonitored. So
100%.
I like that.
That's why we review it, not our client.
So what about things like greening and sustainable events? Has anybody moved into that field yet, that area? I know we did several years ago, we got rid of all printed material. So we stopped printing the guides and we stopped printing, paper for the show. We were still printing signs though. And at first it was a bit of a pushback, but then people got to realize that it's like there's less junk that they're carrying home at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So lots of people were happy about it.
Yeah, I think those sustainable tweaks, anywhere I think you can cut back, it's kind of always good to do it. We do little things like for like our sponsor, like we do branded key cards for all the hotels. So rather than doing the plastic, there's sort of that like cardboard, sort of more of like a hard cardboard that's more of recyclable. So that's sort of a little switch we made. And then obviously digital keys is becoming, more and more common as well.
Where you send to your phone?
Yeah, so if you have like the Hilton app or whatever, you can log in without getting a key card, but just to kind of keep our sponsorables, but have it something that you can, throw it in the recycling rather than it being hard plastic.
Yeah. If you can actually brand that with a sponsor logo?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The digital key?
Yeah, can you probably run an ad or something as well, can't you?
I've not looked into that. I'm not sure.
There's no key, you just have the app in the hotel and you go up the door. So there's nothing to put the sponsorship of it.
I wonder if it could be localized to your event, right? So MGM does it, they have the key, but maybe you checked in under the thing and it's very easy for them to put a customized image there. Yeah. Again, there might be a cost to that or something, but
that'd be a great opportunity for any hotels if they could figure that one out. So although it's probably trying to get the Marriott Global to brand part of their app, which probably has that's the sticking point.
Yeah. But yeah, there's and I think, look, those are smart, and also not printing schedules. All of this saves money, right? It saves time and money, and it's correct, right? Like one of the worst things you can do is print your floor plan too early. and then there's a change or a dropout or something, and that booth is no longer in that location, or that scheduled time is no longer happening then, and now you have to cross it out. So a lot of what we've tried to do is move to digital screens for our schedules and things like that. It is costly. It's cost effective, especially when you compare it to like some of the bigger signs, the Carboplast and stuff like that. Less garbage on the way out. So if you're at a green facility, you're not paying for some of those garbage fees. And then finally, if there is those changes, it's a digital change. So boom, quickly done, and it's changed on all the screens, and there's no marker or white tape over it, so it looks cleaner. And then now that becomes an ad opportunity. So if you have a stage sponsor or something like that, they can run ads throughout, right? It doesn't always have to show the schedule. Like any other billboard, it can play content throughout. And we've done that in a couple different events. I'll be quiet because we have a minute left. I talked to Leon last time.
Setting expectations around the digital content. It's like, great, we can change everything last minute. And then meanwhile, I'm turning around to be like, okay, that doesn't mean you can give me all your content last minute. You still have to do that 6 weeks in advance, because you don't want the answer to like, what's the last possible time I can give you this to be 5 minutes before the event if there's like 800 things that are all 5 minutes before the event.
Because if everyone does it, right? Like if one or two people do it, it's fine. But if your whole client base does it, it's a real problem. Is everyone finding that emails are becoming more valuable to your clients? Your directed email list, are those becoming, or are you pushing those and selling those?
We don't sell ours.
We don't sell ours. We are affected by, I guess everyone's affected by the fake
Sorry,
lists.
when I say sell it, I mean sell. So we include, so this is our email list. Our sponsor pays us for inclusion in that email to talk about it. That's what I mean by selling it, as opposed to giving it to them to send out a dedicated email. It's our email still, but we sell spots within it. So it's our information, and for $1,000, you can have here,
a banner in there or something.
your image and things like that. And it's become highly valuable because it is a target audience. So and again, you're still within your castle compliance. So I should have you should have said that better.
No, there's way more potential in that we need to tap into.
Yeah.
We have a fantastic email list.
And I'm sure your customers would be eager to, right? And then the app also becomes a sellable asset. But yeah, there's all these. I'm gonna start. I keep talking.
You're gonna get cut off again, Mikey.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. I think everyone is pretty much almost back now. We will ask the facilitators now to highlight the ideas shared, and we've got approximately 10 minutes to cover this. But if we run out of time, we will share all the key takeaways with everybody after the webinar. So who would like to go first?
We'll start first this time. So Sonia and myself had the second roundtable, and it was attendee engagement and creating immersive experiences. So there was a bit of crossover from the first session we did in terms of knowing your audience, understanding your audience. And we were talking how that was important when we were marketing and branding the show in the first session. And this one was extending it to the show floor. So I have to admit, it was really lots of discussion, and I didn't make all that many notes. So Sonia, you may have to fill in a couple here. But basically, we talked about how trade shows of even 20 years ago was a trade show in particular, maybe not a consumer show, but a very basic show. You went to talk with people, and then we created a lounge and thought that was very creative. And now it is just how, the exhibitors, and it's our job as show management to encourage exhibitors to create really interactive booths and immersive experiences, and for us on the show floor too. So whether it's creating really interesting zones and different, areas and staging things on the stage. Pat mentioned how a new product, doing a new product launch where often it was just done and shown at maybe the front of the show or a particular area, now doing it on the stage and having people having 10 minutes rapid fire and just talking about their topic, where it's not just an item sitting on a table anymore. Things like that. making sure that, you know, if we have influencers coming down to the event, doing lots of sharing on social media and all of that, because that will create attendance for future. And using the apps that came up in our first one, but getting people engaged in apps, whether it's matchmaking, you're doing contesting on the apps, those times of things, but it keeps people going, keeps your community going, and that can be kind of post-show as well. Just anything that we can do to keep the attendees so they're learning and they're growing and they're engaging. So all kinds of, you know, different things that we can do, the exhibitors can do, creating those Instagrammable moments, those types of things. Podcasts, that's kind of something that a lot of shows are doing now on the show floor, making sure that we're having those kind of experiences. And we sort of had an example at the start of just, you know, a group that had wanted to influence buyers in a certain way, so brought them and created a really immersive experience for them. So just having anything that we can do that can keep people super engaged, keep them talking about it, taking photos, taking videos, and keep things going. Sonia, was there anything major that I missed there?
No, you did excellent. I think it is about curating, having that individual experience. So having zones and people being able to make their way through their event in a curated manner that's an experience special to them, I think is wraps that up. But thanks, Nancy.
Okay, we'll turn it over to the other group.
Great. So we talked about refreshing your show. So part of what we talked about was getting to know your audience and know what is of interest to them. Content creation, using native apps and social media apps to build, and not just go over, not just hire influencers, but look to the up and coming people who are oftentimes a little bit cheaper than the big influencers. So start off small and let them create your content for you. What else? Partnerships. I can't read my writing. What else? Stages, having stages on the show floor. We talked about those where they can actually deter exhibitors. They pull people off the floor to go look at the exhibit. So having more interactive things in the booths is a better option. And we talked about digital signage, and how it's changed in terms of that we're not throwing out as much stuff. So it's a little bit more sustainable for your show. We're not throwing out garbage at the end. And you also can make last minute changes to programs and schedules and floor plans, et cetera. Lots of talk about word clouds or visual clouds, where attendees and exhibitors can post information on it, or it can be drawings of the show, and then you send those out to the exhibitors and sponsors afterwards and attendees, and it allows the show to keep going, stay after the show. Talked a little bit about crowdsourcing as well. Lots of interaction, and you want to invite the attendees to participate. So one show they were asking, what do you collect? And it's, you know, people put in their information and then they can win a prize at the end of it, right? So, and then you could even change that up if you want it for your show. You could even say something like, you know, what's the biggest issues facing our industry at this time? So you get a little bit more feedback for how you can look at your industry and what's plaguing the exhibitors and attendees. We talked about emails. So you can now sell ads or banners for regular emails that go out to your show to your attendees at your show. So build in a sponsorship that allows one of your sponsors to put their ad or their banner into your email, and then they send it out. It's a value added for the sponsor. It's going to every attendee there. So
Thanks, Michael.
Did I miss anything?
And now we're going to start losing people. But I wanted to thank everybody, and we'll definitely send out notes to everybody so you have all the takeaways from every single roundtable. Give us feedback, and I think we need to make our roundtables longer next time. But thank you, everybody. Thank you to the facilitators as well, and we appreciate all of you. So take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Serge.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good to see you
Goodbye.
all.